Kelsey, 30 years old, and my planned peaceful return to my coastal hometown turned sideways in less than 2 minutes. The flickering porch light of my childhood home barely cut through the thick dusk, but it was enough to reveal Aunt Ruth. Inside, her wiry frame hunched over a bowl of instant noodles at the dining table. Her hands trembled slightly with every bite. A crumpled envelope sat by her elbow. "Sorry about this." "Couldn't wait," she said, pushing the letter toward me. I unfolded it quickly. "Used the inheritance money for Liam. He needed help. Watch him this week. We're in Aruba. Love, Mom and Dad." That was it. That was my mother's way of informing me that the $26,000 left to me by my late grandmother, the only person who ever truly believed in my dreams, was now gone. Aunt Ruth's lined, hand covered mine gently. "You have every right to be furious, sweetheart," she murmured. I gave her a small, hollow smile, unsure whether I was about to scream or cry. 3 days later, they would regret it, profoundly. But first, I need to back up. I've always been the planner, the fixer, the one who kept things afloat. That started early. When I was 17, my dad's small charter boat business ran aground after a major accident he never quite recovered from, and my mom's boutique struggled to keep the lights on. While my peers partied and obsessed over college acceptance letters, I pulled coffee double shifts at Cliff's Diner and sold handmade jewelry at the Sunday market to help buy groceries. Liam, my younger brother by 4 years, was already a handful. Back then, always skating just under the bar of suspension, always someone else's fault. When I asked my mom why he never helped out, her reply was as predictable as it was frustrating. "He's sensitive, Kelsey. Don't put pressure on him. He's not like you." So while I skipped senior prom to clean hotel bathrooms at the dockside, Liam got new sneakers for basketball season. I didn't complain. Not really. He was a kid, and we all had to do what we could. I stayed local for college, attending Wincliffe Community while commuting from home and continuing my 3 part-time jobs. My ultimate goal, veterinary school. Animals had always made sense to me in a way people often didn't. Each month, I put $500 into a shared savings account under my name, your safety net, Grandma would call it. When she passed, she left me $26,000 in her will, no strings attached. That money was supposed to pay my loans down after I completed my vet tech certification. My mother offered to hold on to it, to protect it from inflation and bad spending. Decisions. That money was now Liam's apparently, and no one had even bothered to call. I glanced around the dim kitchen. Dust floated lazily in the thin bands of overhead light. The fridge was mostly empty, except for a jug of expired milk and a takeout container of dubious origin. Liam was nowhere in sight. "When was the last time you saw him?" I asked, tension rising. "Yesterday afternoon," Aunt Ruth sighed. "He borrowed my car to run errands. Said he'd be back before dinner." "And?" She gestured to her half-eaten noodles. "You tell me." My parents, as expected, were unreachable. Voicemails. No emergency contact. Just a Facebook update of them sipping rum cocktails at a resort pool under the caption, "Unearned this." I stormed up to Liam's room. What I found turned my gut. Empty beer bottles cluttered the floor. A second-hand gaming console, still in its original box, perched on the desk. Unopened parcels, some marked with designer labels, were strewn about like confetti. His mattress bore an impression deep enough to suggest days, not hours, of lounging. Worse, a torn pharmacy bag and an unlabeled orange bottle sat on the nightstand. I lifted it with a trembling hand. A whiff of acetone and stale pills hit my nose. The doorbell rang. "Sorry to bother," came the voice of Mrs. Halverson, the elderly neighbor from across the street. Her eyes lingered on my face as she held a Tupperware container. "I brought something for Ruth. But truthfully, I've been worried sick. There were over a dozen kids here 2 nights ago. Loud music, smelled like a dispensary. Did you tell my parents?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She nodded grimly. They said boys will be boys, claimed they were glad he was socializing again. After she left, I called my best friend Zoe, a paralegal and the only person who'd ever matched. My stubborn streak. She was livid on my behalf. You need to run a credit check immediately, she urged. If your parents dipped into that account, what else might they have accessed? She was right. I pulled up the banking app on my phone, and my stomach dropped. Over the past 6 months, there had been steady withdrawals from my savings account. Each time the authorization read, Pamela Davis, my mother. The final withdrawal 3 days ago had cleared out the remaining balance. That night, Aunt Ruth and I sat in the living room with the heat turned down low, eating canned chili and crackers. How? Will you pay your loans now? She asked gently. I won't, I said flatly. Not without that money. We sat in silence, the air heavy with betrayal. Eventually, Aunt Ruth nodded toward the hallway. Liam's been worse lately, more paranoid, more erratic. He pawned my wedding ring for gas money last month. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stared at the threadbare carpet, remembering how my parents had posted a picture last month in front of a brand new flat-screen TV, gushing about their blessed life. That night, I searched for Liam again. His phone went straight to voicemail. I climbed the attic stairs, more out of instinct than hope, and rummaged through the old storage bins. There I found a letter Grandma had written to me before she passed, one I must have forgotten about. You're the anchor in this family, Kelsey. That comes with a burden, but it also comes with strength. Don't let anyone steal your light, to fuel their shadows. I reread it 3 times. Then I made a decision. This ends now. The morning after I discovered my savings were gone, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. Instead, I made a to-do list. It's how I've always coped, with action. Emotions could wait. First, secure Aunt Ruth. She was a frail woman with arthritic fingers and a heart too soft for confrontation. I made her a proper breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, and half an avocado I found at the back of the fridge, and insisted she eat while I checked the house. Second, Liam's room again. I took photos this time. Not just the beer cans and pill bottles, but also the closet full of expensive clothes, the unopened electronics, and the stack of past due notices shoved behind the desk. Documentation wasn't just for me anymore. I had a feeling I'd need it. Third, find Liam. Before that, I paused at a photo frame on the hallway wall, an old beach shot of our family. I must have been 12, Liam 8. We were building a sandcastle. Mom, in a sun hat, stood over us laughing. Dad held a thermos, mid-joke. It should have made me smile. Instead, it filled me with dread, because the boy in that picture, smiling, messy and innocent, was long gone. Back then, I protected Liam like a second mother. When he got stung by a jellyfish, I carried him 3 blocks home on my back. When his teacher accused him of cheating in 5th grade, I stayed up 2 nights, writing a report with him just to prove them wrong. I loved him fiercely. Still did. That hadn't changed. But love without boundaries wasn't protection. It was permission. And my parents had been granting that permission since he hit puberty. At 14, Liam was suspended for stealing a classmate's phone. At 15, caught with weed on school grounds. At 16, he totaled Dad's work van while driving without a license. Each time, my parents intervened, not to discipline, but to explain it away. He's misunderstood. He just needs a creative outlet. You were never a teenager like him, Kelsey. You don't get it. At the time, I thought they were just being overprotective. Now I saw it differently. They were scared of what he might become if they didn't smother his consequences in cushions. But in doing so, they carved out his ability to stand. And what of me? I was the dependable one. The girl who worked 3 jobs and graduated with honors. The daughter who never asked for anything. The backup plan they always knew would show up when things fell apart. I once believed that made me strong. Now I realized it had made me convenient. Aunt Ruth sat quietly at the table, flipping through her crossword book. Her pen hovered midair. "You should have that money, Kelsey," she said after a while. "Not them. Not him." "I know. I replied, my voice steady. "And I'm going to do something about it." My search for Liam started small. Texts to mutual friends, a few Facebook messages to his former classmates. One girl named Shelby responded almost immediately. "He was at Ryan Hargrove's place 2 nights ago. Big party, looked rough." Rough how? Tired, skinnier, shaky. That weird confidence addicts get when they think they've got everything under control. That made my stomach turn. I thanked her and pulled up Ryan's address. Still lived near the old shipyard. I knew the place. His dad used to own a motorcycle repair shop. The moment I stepped outside, I felt the air shift. Fall in Wincliffe was moody. Gray skies, cold salt air, gulls that cried like grief overhead. The streets I grew up on looked the same, but they no longer felt familiar. They were echoes of a life I used to understand, before I saw what hid beneath the surface. At Ryan's, I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Eventually, the door cracked open. A tall, sleep-deprived kid with greasy hair and a neck tattoo blinked at me. "Yeah?" "I'm looking for Liam Davis." "Who?" "Don't play dumb." "He was here 2 nights ago. Tall, brown hair, talks too much, laughs too loud." The guy sighed. "He crashed here for a bit, left yesterday. Borrowed someone's bike and split." "Did he say where he was going?" "Nope." Looked like he owed people money, though. Kept checking his phone and muttering. Something about meeting Kat at the rail yard. "Kat?" He shrugged. "Didn't ask. Don't care." I returned to the car. Kat. That name struck a vague memory, one of Liam's on-again, off-again girlfriends from last year. The one my mother couldn't stand because she had a nose ring and worked at a tattoo parlor. The last time I'd seen her, she was yelling at Liam in the Waffle House parking lot, calling him a gaslighting loser. I took a chance and messaged her through Instagram. "Need to find Liam. It's urgent." "Can we talk?" she responded. "Within minutes. He's with me. For now." "Where?" "Meet me at the docks. I'll explain." "The docks?" "Of course. The place we all went to when we had nowhere else to be." When I arrived, Kat was leaning against a rusting cargo container, arms crossed, hoodie pulled low. Her eyeliner was smudged, but her eyes were clear and sharp. "Liam's crashing on my couch," she said without greeting. "But I'm done." "Done?" "He stole from me. Again. Took $200 from my bag last night. I've had it." I sighed. "Can I talk to him?" She nodded toward a battered van parked nearby. Inside, the interior reeked of weed and sweat. Liam lay sprawled across the back seat, earbuds in, eyes closed. He looked thinner, paler, and older in a way that made me ache. I opened the door. "Hey," he startled, yanking the buds out. "Jesus, Kels, what the hell?" "I've been looking for you." "Congratulations, you found me." I climbed in and sat across from him. "We need to talk. About the money. About everything." He rubbed his face. "Mom said they'd pay it back. Said you'd overreact like you always do." "That money was mine, Liam." He avoided my eyes. "I didn't ask for it." "No, but you didn't say no either." He hesitated. "I was in trouble, okay? Owed someone cash. Mom and Dad said they had a way to help. I didn't know it was your inheritance. You didn't ask. No, he admitted. I didn't. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked, Are you using again? He stiffened. Not what you think. Then what do I think exactly? He didn't answer. You stole Aunt Ruth's car. You're living in a van. You've got drugs in your room, Liam. His voice broke. I don't want to be like this, okay? But I don't know how to stop. That was the first honest thing he'd said in years. I nodded slowly. Then let me help you. I don't want rehab. I didn't say anything about rehab, not yet. First, you need to get clean. Sober. 3 days, Liam. Come home, eat food, sleep. Then we figure out next steps. He stared at the floor for a long time. Then finally, quietly, 3 days. It wasn't a solution, but it was something. Liam didn't come quietly, but he came. That was more than I expected. The drive back to Aunt Ruth's was silent except for the hum of the old heater and the occasional sniffle from Liam, who looked like he might dissolve if touched too roughly. I glanced at him once, his profile hollow, eyes vacant, and thought of how he used to run barefoot in the backyard, arms outstretched like airplane wings. That boy was gone. But maybe not permanently. At home, I set rules. You sleep in the den. No drugs. No leaving without telling me. You eat 3 meals a day. Shower, that's it. No lectures. He nodded wordlessly. Aunt Ruth kept her distance, muttering "Lord help us" under her breath as she retreated to her bedroom with her dog-eared mystery novel. By nightfall, Liam had eaten a bowl of pasta and collapsed on the couch. I stood over him for a long time, trying to reconcile this grown man with bloodshot eyes and track marks on his arm, with the brother who once stayed up with me all night when my guinea pig died. I turned off the lights. The next morning, I woke to the smell of burnt toast. In the kitchen, Liam hovered over the toaster, a sheepish look on his face. Thought I'd try and, eat like a human. I poured coffee into 2 mugs. Glad to see your appetite's back. He took a tentative sip. Tastes like dirt. Welcome home. He cracked a half smile. I handed him a banana. So, let's talk about the inheritance. He sighed, nodding. I know it was wrong. Mom said they were desperate. Said you wouldn't need it anymore since you had that new vet job. They didn't ask. I know. And you didn't ask. He stared into the mug. They always say you're the one who'll be fine no matter what. That you'll land on your feet. I've heard that one before. They don't mean to be cruel, he added. They count on you to fix things. Always have. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank account. Still empty. Then, I opened the folder I'd created the night before. Documentation. Photos. Emails. Withdrawal records. The beginnings of a paper trail that outlined a quiet theft under the guise of parental concern. I need your help, I said. To make things right. Liam blinked. Like how? First, you help me go through their records, credit cards, home equity loans, insurance, all of it. We need to know how deep this goes. He hesitated. Won't that just blow everything up? It already has. This isn't a family squabble anymore, Liam. It's financial abuse, elder neglect, and theft. And it didn't start with me. What do you mean? They took money from Aunt Ruth, too. Her ring. Her savings. Did you know that? His face fell. No, I didn't. They've been draining everyone dry to prop up this perfect little illusion. The good life. But we've all been footing the bill. Liam looked sick. I want you to help me gather proof, I continued. Then, you have a choice. Come clean and get help or keep running until there's nothing left. He was quiet a long time. Then he stood. Where do we start? Over the next 2 days, we worked like detectives. Liam gave me access to his phone. Photos, texts, messages from our parents. One in particular chilled me. Your sister will understand. She always does. She won't let you go without. It was from Mom. Another showed a wire transfer to a pawn shop across town. Attached was a photo of Aunt Ruth's wedding ring. We found receipts for a new air conditioning unit installed at my parents' house just 2 weeks before their trip. A luxury wine delivery, spa appointments. All of it within the last 6 months. Their accounts painted a bleak picture. 3 maxed out credit cards, a second mortgage, payday loans with 22% interest. I copied every file into my folder. While Liam sifted through physical mail, I called a lawyer Zoe recommended, Monica Chen, a financial abuse specialist. Document everything, she told me firmly. And if your aunt is willing, have her assign you power of attorney before they try to move anything else. That night, I sat down with Aunt Ruth. She was wearing her threadbare robe, sipping weak tea. They took your ring, Ruth. They've taken more than that, too. She looked down at her hands. I know. I want to protect what's left, but I need your permission. She gave a soft sigh. I've watched them lie for years. Tell me I was forgetful when they moved money. Tell me I didn't need the necklace my husband gave me. They said it was better used for Liam's rehab, which he never attended, I said quietly. I'm not stupid, Kelsey, she whispered. Just tired. I reached for her hand. You don't have to fight this alone. She nodded. Do what needs doing. With Aunt Ruth's consent, I filed the paperwork. Monica confirmed we'd need to get it notarized, but assured me it was valid. That same afternoon, Liam and I compiled everything into OneDrive. Statements, screenshots, photos. The truth in full color. Then we sat at the kitchen table, staring at my parents' contact photo on my phone. Are you ready for this? I asked. Liam swallowed. No, but let's do it anyway. I pressed call. It rang 5 times before my mother answered, her voice sugar-sweet. Kelsey, honey, you're calling early. We're just headed to a sunset dinner. We need to talk, I said evenly. Now. Can it wait? The reservations? No. I cut in. You stole $26,000 from me. You pawned Ruth's things. You left Liam in a spiral and expected me to clean up the mess. We're not doing this anymore. Silence. Then, sweetheart, you're overreacting. Liam took the phone from me. No, she's not, he said softly. You wrecked me, and her. You lied to everyone. There was a long, terrible pause. Then Dad came on. We were trying to help you, son. That money was for your future. You spent it on rum and designer handbags, Liam snapped. You'll thank us someday. No, I said, taking the phone back. We're done. We've contacted a lawyer. Everything you've taken is documented. And if you try to touch a penny more from Ruth or Liam, we will press charges. My mother's voice shifted, hardening. You ungrateful little... I hung up. Liam exhaled slowly. Well, that's that. No, I said, staring at the wall. That's the beginning. The fallout came faster than I expected. By morning, my parents had blocked both my number and Liam's. Aunt Ruth's landline received 2 voicemails, one apologetic, the other furious. They used every tactic in their playbook: guilt, gaslighting, and finally, threats. I saved them all. Zoe helped me draft a statement outlining the suspected financial abuse, complete with timestamps, signed affidavits from Ruth, and screenshots of bank withdrawals. Monica, our lawyer, reviewed the documents and added 2 more pages. We were building a case, not just for legal protection but for the truth, finally in writing. They've stolen a combined total of over $58,000. Monica told me on the phone, her tone even. And that's what we can verify. Add emotional neglect, medication mismanagement, and Ruth's missing jewelry. This goes deeper than a family squabble. Liam sat across from me, eating cereal slowly, like every spoonful was a question mark. Do you think they ever really believed they were helping me? He asked, not meeting my eyes. I considered it. Maybe at first. But that doesn't excuse what they've done. Love without accountability isn't love. It's control. Nodded, quiet. I want to do better. You will. We spent the afternoon cleaning Aunt Ruth's house. I scrubbed the fridge and threw out expired condiments. Liam cleared bottles and cigarette butts from behind the shed, evidence of more than one late-night party he'd forgotten or denied. I found mold under the sink, another metaphor too obvious to ignore. In the evening, we brought Ruth to the notary's office. She signed the documents calmly, even as her hand trembled slightly. She didn't flinch when asked why she was transferring power of attorney. My daughter cannot be trusted, she said flatly. My niece can. That night Liam cooked dinner, pasta and meatballs from scratch. He even made garlic bread. It was oversalted and lopsided, but he beamed when Aunt Ruth asked for seconds. This is nice, she murmured, wiping her chin. Feels like family. For the first time in years, it did. 2 days later, the pressure cracked again. We were eating breakfast when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Officer Delgado, a broad-shouldered woman with a tired expression and a clipboard in her hand. Are you Kelsey Davis? She asked. Yes. She glanced at the house. Pamela and Charles Davis filed a complaint. Said you're holding your brother against his will. Also mentioned concern for an elderly relative being coerced. I swallowed my fury. Would you like to come in? She did. Inside, I laid out everything. Ruth's signed statements, our documentation, the bank records. Liam sat beside me, nodding at all the right moments. Aunt Ruth offered tea. By the end of the conversation, Officer Delgado's demeanor had changed. She closed her notebook and gave me a slow nod. I see what's going on here, she said, and I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Honestly, I wish more families documented things this thoroughly. Will there be an investigation? I asked. There already is. You're not the only ones who've filed a complaint. My eyebrows rose. Really? She nodded. An older gentleman said they scammed him into investing in a fake cleaning business 2 years ago. Never saw a dime of it returned. They claimed they'd repay him once Liam was back on his feet. Sound familiar? My heart sank. Yes. Delgado handed me her card. Keep documenting, and keep your doors locked. As she left, Liam slumped onto the couch, groaning. They really filed a police report. Against you. They'll do anything to avoid accountability, I said, including making me the villain. They're going to paint you as manipulative, controlling. Let them, I said. I'd rather be the villain in their story than a pawn in their fantasy. Later that evening, I found Liam in the backyard, sitting on the swing set with tea. Hadn't used in a decade. He looked smaller somehow, the way people do when they realize their parents are just flawed adults in denial. I don't want to hate them, he said, but I think I might. You don't have to hate them. Just stop letting them define you. He nodded slowly. Is that what you did? I'm still trying. He rocked back and forth on the swing. If I go to rehab, will that fix things? No, I said honestly. But it's the start of fixing you. That's enough for now. He was quiet a long time. Then, I want to try. I exhaled. Riverbend Recovery Center had a wait list, but with Ruth's signature and Monica's letter framing Liam's admission as part of a court-supported plan to avoid deeper legal trouble, We moved to the top. They scheduled his intake in 3 days. The day before Liam left, we had a picnic. On a whim, I packed cold sandwiches, pickles, and lemonade, and we drove to Cedar Bluff, the same spot Grandma used to take us when we were kids. The wind off the water was brisk but refreshing. We sat under the crooked pine where we used to play cards on a beach towel. "I'm scared," Liam admitted as we ate. "Me too. What if I fail?" "Then you try again." He looked at me, really looked. "You're not mad at me anymore?" "I'm still mad," I said. "But I'm not giving up." "I stole from you," he said. "I know. I lied, disappeared. Got high while you paid the bills." "I know." "Then why are you helping me?" I didn't hesitate. "Because you're worth saving." His eyes filled with tears. He looked away, pretending to sip his lemonade. "I'll pay it back," he said. "Pay it forward instead." He nodded, voice rough. "Okay." That night, we made a plan. I packed his bag. Ruth hugged him tighter than I'd ever seen. He promised her he'd come back better. "You come back whole," she whispered. "That's all I ask." The next morning, I drove him to Riverbend. The facility was quiet, the air thick with pine and birdsong. A counselor named Elijah greeted us. Calm voice, warm eyes. He didn't judge, just welcomed. "This is your new beginning," he told Liam. "And you're in charge of where it goes." I watched my brother follow him inside. No backward glance. Just a deep breath. As I drove away, I allowed myself one tear, then another. Not sadness, not even relief. Just the heavy, unfamiliar weight of hope. Liam's absence changed the atmosphere of Aunt Ruth's house almost immediately. It wasn't just quieter, it was lighter, like someone had finally cracked open a window after years of suffocating air. Aunt Ruth seemed more at peace. She played soft jazz on her old stereo, watered her plants, and cooked elaborate meals just because. I helped when I could, but most of my time was spent organizing, planning, preparing for the storm we both knew hadn't passed, only shifted course. My parents were still silent, but that didn't mean they weren't watching. Zoe forwarded me an email from her contact at the bank. Apparently, my mother had tried to access Ruth's old CD account, only to discover the power of attorney had shifted. She was displeased, the bank rep had noted dryly. Monica took the opportunity to file a formal notice to prevent any future unauthorized withdrawals from Ruth's accounts. We locked everything down, credit freezes, password changes, safe deposit box. "We're building a legal fortress," Monica said. "They're going to hate it." "Good," I replied. Meanwhile, I focused on selling the house. Ruth's decision hadn't changed. She didn't want to live in Wincliffe anymore, surrounded by old memories and manipulative ghosts. "This place is haunted," she said, not with fear, but weariness. Time to go. We listed it through a friend of Monica's, a young, sharp-witted realtor named Tanya who didn't blink when I told her the circumstances. "You wouldn't believe how many clients are escaping their families," she said. "I've got 3 right now moving out because of adult kids, parents, or siblings who drained them dry." She promised a quick turnaround. The market was hot. The house needed a little love, but it had character and great bones. I wasn't sure about either, but I trusted her. While the listing process moved forward, I reached out to a caseworker from Adult Protective Services. Ruth insisted she was fine, and in many ways she was. But I didn't want to leave any more gaps for my parents to exploit. The caseworker, Amelia, reviewed our documentation and confirmed what we already knew. This wasn't just a moral violation. It was a legal one. They used your grandmother's money, Ruth's belongings, and Liam's addiction to pad their lifestyle, she said. If they were strangers, they'd already be facing charges. What happens now? I asked. Amelia offered a tight smile. That depends. Are you ready to press forward? I glanced at Ruth, who nodded. Let's finish what they started. 2 days later, the phone rang. Not a blocked number. Not some obscure area code. It was my father. I answered with more curiosity than anger. Kelsey, he said, voice tight. Your mother and I would like to meet. No. We need to talk, face to face, civilly. What could you possibly say in person that you haven't said by stealing thousands of dollars behind my back? He sighed. We made mistakes. But we're still family. Family doesn't rob you blind and call it love. Kels, no, I said again, more firmly. Not unless Liam's there. And Ruth. And a mediator. Absolutely not, he snapped. This is a private matter. Then it stays private. You don't want the truth out there, remember? The silence that followed was short, but tense. We tried to help Liam. You buried him in comfort and called it care. He's in rehab now, finally, and it had nothing to do with you. My father's voice dropped, cold and clear. You're making this worse than it has to be. Then maybe you should have thought about that before draining Grandma's legacy for a luxury vacation and a flat-screen TV. I hung up. 3 hours later, Tanya called. We've got an offer. What? A young couple from Boston. They saw the photos online, drove down last night, and want to make a full-price offer. No contingencies. I blinked. Already? I told you. Good bones. I relayed the news to Ruth over dinner. She chewed her chicken slowly, then smiled. I'll miss the garden, she said, but I won't miss what happened inside. We toasted with sweet tea, a quiet celebration. The next day, I drove to Riverbend to visit Liam. The facility was modern and calm. Clean halls, smiling staff, windows that let in natural light. None of the institutional sterility I'd feared. Liam looked better already. Still pale, still thin, but clearer. Sharper. How's the outside world? He asked, taking a seat across from me in the visiting room. Louder. Angrier, but improving. Did they call? Dad did. Tried to convince me to meet without you. Liam scoffed. Classic. They're spiraling. We cut off their supply. He nodded, then shifted in his chair. You think they ever loved us? I mean, really? I hesitated. Yes, but their version of love came with conditions and control. He looked away. I think part of me always thought I was the anchor, the glue holding everything together. You were the distraction. I was the anchor. And now we both get to let go. He smiled faintly. Good. We sat, in silence. The comfortable kind. I'm scared of relapsing, he admitted after a while. That's why you're here. He nodded, then looked at me. You'll still be around, right? When I'm out? Of course. Not to save me. No, just to walk beside you, he exhaled. Thanks, Kels. I squeezed his hand. Anytime. That night, I filed the official complaint through Amelia's office. It detailed every stolen cent, every manipulation, every abandoned responsibility. I knew it wouldn't magically undo the damage, but it was a marker, a line drawn in permanent ink. We weren't looking away anymore. Later, I sat on the porch alone, wrapped in Grandma's old quilt. The wind rustled the oak leaves, and for the first time in years, I felt still. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The week after filing the complaint, the world slowed. Not in a relaxing way, more like the heavy pause before a thunderstorm, where every cloud holds its breath. Riverbend kept me updated on Liam's progress. He was 3 weeks clean, attending group sessions, sleeping better, asking questions. His counselor, Elijah, sent me short updates. He's opening up. Rough day today. Talked about Dad for the first time. I saved them all. Back at Aunt Ruth's, we packed slowly, carefully. Each box felt like a memory peeled open. Old sewing patterns, faded photographs, expired spices that smelled like childhood. She insisted on keeping her Christmas nutcracker collection. I don't trust strangers with these, she said, wrapping each one in bubble wrap like porcelain babies. The house sale closed quietly. No ceremony, just papers and signatures and the invisible end of an era. Ruth's new apartment near my place in Portland was smaller, but bright, with a window view of a park and an elevator that worked. This feels like the beginning of something, she whispered on move-in day. It is. One afternoon, while organizing files on my laptop, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. We need to talk. It's about Liam. Kat. I hesitated. Kat had been a complicated presence. One part reality check, one part chaos magnet. But she'd cared about Liam once, and that counted for something. I agreed to meet her at the park. She looked thinner than I remembered. Nervous. Her eyes darted toward the bench where I sat like she was unsure whether to approach or run. He called me, she said. Last night. From rehab? She nodded. Said he wanted to apologize, that he's trying, that he still thinks about me. I didn't know what to say. I just thought you should know, she added quickly. He asked about you, about Ruth, about whether your parents were still crazy. Some things never change. I muttered. Kat looked down. I told him I couldn't go back, not unless he's serious. He is, I said. For the first time in a long time, she nodded. Then maybe he'll make it. Maybe we all will. That night, I got the email. It was from our parents' lawyer, a firm in Boston that handled mid-tier estate planning and personal lawsuits. The subject line was bold and offensive. Cease and desist regarding defamatory claims. My stomach turned. The letter threatened legal action if I continued spreading malicious and unfounded accusations about Charles and Pamela Davis. Demanded that I withdraw the elder abuse complaint, rescind my power of attorney for Ruth, and return all financial documents obtained without consent. I laughed. Actually laughed, because they'd played their hand too late. Monica reviewed the letter and snorted. This isn't even written by someone who understands the case, she said. It's a bluff. They want you scared. Don't bite. I won't. We drafted a counter-response. A professional, fact-laden letter that restated our position, emphasized the legal evidence, and included a deadline. If they wanted to avoid public charges, they would need to sign a restitution agreement and attend a mediated hearing. 3 days passed. No reply. On Sunday, I visited Liam again. This time he looked stronger, cleaner. His skin had color. His jokes landed. I've started a journal, he told me, voice cautious. Elijah says it helps. I'd love to read it someday. Maybe. Some of it's dark. I've seen dark. He leaned back on the bench, exhaling. They're going to fight you. You know that, right? Mom and Dad? They already are. He looked down. It's my fault. No. They made choices. You made choices. And I made mine. That doesn't make this your fault. He nodded, slow and careful. I think I want to stay here longer, even after the 30 days. That's your choice, I said. But I think it's the right one. I need more time. More than a month to untangle. A decade of damage. I squeezed his hand. Take the time. Heal. That night, my phone rang again. This time it was my mother. Kelsey. I said nothing. Kelsey, please, just listen. I didn't hang up, which in itself felt like a compromise. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. I remained silent. We made mistakes. We were scared. You were always so capable, and Liam, he needed so much. So you took everything from both of us to protect the fantasy. She paused. Yes. The word landed like a quiet confession in the dark. I don't expect forgiveness, she added. Good. Because it's not yours yet. Will you ever... No, I cut her off. Not now. Maybe not ever. What about your father? He can talk to the lawyer. She didn't reply. You wanted me to be strong, I continued. And I am. So now I'm strong enough to say this ends here. You sound like your grandmother, she whispered. Then maybe she raised the right one. I hung up. Later that evening, I sat on the floor of my apartment surrounded by packing. Boxes. Ruth had dozed off in the recliner, her tea forgotten on the side table. The light was soft. The room was quiet. It struck me then. The weight I'd carried for years had shifted, not vanished, but redistributed. I didn't carry everyone's burdens anymore, just mine. And that was enough. The call came at 4:19 a.m., the kind of call no one wants. It was Riverbend. This is Elijah, the counselor said, his voice unusually tight. Liam left the facility around midnight. He wasn't cleared. He wasn't ready. He just walked. My chest caved in. Do you know where he went? No. He took his phone and his wallet, but he left his journal. My hands trembled. Do I call the police? We already have, Elijah said. Because of his medical history and recent status, he qualifies as a missing vulnerable adult. But they'll move slowly. You know that. I thanked him, promised to call back, and immediately started my own search. I texted Kat. No response. I called his old contacts. Disconnected numbers. Ignored calls. One cursed me out and told me to stop babysitting an addict. I threw on a sweater and drove. My mind buzzed with worst-case scenarios. Overdose, arrest, disappearance, death. I started at the skate park. Empty. The boardwalk. Abandoned. Then the docks. That's where I found the first sign. Liam's hoodie, crumpled on a bench by the edge. Familiar. Blue with the peeling Mariners logo he wore through most of high school. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside the pocket, a folded note. Kels, I don't want to mess this up. I really don't. But sometimes I feel like a virus. Like no matter where I go, I infect everything. I didn't plan to run. I just couldn't breathe. I'm sorry. For the money. For the years. For needing you so much. I'm trying. Love, L.I. Sank onto the bench, the wind stinging my eyes more than the cold. I texted Zoe. Liam's missing. Need help. Please. She replied instantly. On it. Be there in 10. By sunrise, we were knocking on doors. Hospitals, shelters, friends, enemies. Kat finally answered at noon. Her voice cracked. He was here. For like 5 minutes. Is he still? No. He said goodbye. For real this time. Something in her voice told me it was serious. Where would he go? I asked. She hesitated. There's this cliff. Old quarry trail. He used to talk about it when he was at his worst. Said it was the only place he ever felt blank. I don't know if that means peace or the other thing. I didn't wait to ask. I drove like hell. Up the winding roads of Ridgeway Trail, tires skidding in loose gravel. The sky had turned overcast, the air thick with the scent of salt and damp earth. At the top, I parked and ran. The quarry cliffs loomed ahead, a sheer drop into nothing. I followed the footpath, calling his name. Liam, no answer. Liam, please. Then I heard it, a cough, a shuffle. Movement behind the trees. I ran toward it. There he was, sitting cross-legged on a boulder near the edge, hoodieless in the cold, arms wrapped around himself. He looked up as I approached. Pale, exhausted, but alive. "You found me," he said. Voice hollow, I dropped to my knees in front of him. "Of course I did. I'm sorry." "Then come back." "I didn't use," he said quickly. "I swear. I left because I was scared, but I didn't use." "That's good." I felt like everyone was watching me, waiting for me to fail. "No one's rooting for your failure." "I am," he said. "Sometimes." I took his hand. It was ice. "Then I'll root harder." He broke then. Full sobs, the kind that rack the whole body. I held him as he cried, whispering whatever I could, nothing poetic, just solid, steady words. "I've got you. You're not alone. You're still my brother." It took 30 minutes before we stood. He let me lead him to the car. He didn't argue. We drove in silence until he whispered, "Will they even take me back?" "They will, and if they don't, then I'll fight until they do." He rested his head against the window. "I want to get better, Kels. Really. But sometimes I just don't know how to be a person. You don't have to know yet. You just have to want it. I do. That's enough." Back at Riverbend, Elijah met us at the gate. He didn't scold, didn't shame, just took Liam by the shoulders and said, "You made the right choice." Liam nodded, tears fresh on his face. He looked back at me before walking inside. "Come visit next week?" "Try and stop me." As the gate shut, I exhaled. My hand still trembled on the wheel. But my brother was alive. He'd come back, and that was everything. 3 weeks later, we sat in the mediation room, 5 folding. Chairs, a round table, and 2 pitchers of filtered water that no one touched. Across from me, my parents. On my side, Monica, Aunt Ruth, and, via Zoom, Liam, freshly discharged from Riverbend and still adjusting to sober life outside its walls. His hair was shorter and his face clearer. The version of my brother I hadn't seen in years. The mediator, a calm woman named Jordan, began the session with practiced neutrality. "Today's goal is clarity, resolution if possible. Honesty is a requirement. Civility is a must." My mother wore her pearls, my father his favorite blazer. Their weapons of choice, appearances, charm, and revisionist memory, were primed for battle. "You ambushed us," my mother began. Public complaints, legal filings, selling Ruth's house. "I protected Ruth from exploitation," I said, keeping my tone flat. "And I protected Liam when you wouldn't." "We supported him," my father said, fists clenching. "Paid for his needs, bailed him out." "With my money," I replied. "And hers, and his future." The mediator lifted a hand. "Let's focus. The issue at hand is restitution and a shared understanding of harm caused." My parents exchanged a glance. Then my mother said it. We didn't realize how far we'd gone. It was the closest she'd come to admitting guilt. I took a breath. "I don't want revenge. I want change." "We're not rich," my father snapped. "We can't pay it back all at once." "Installments," Monica interjected. "Every month, until $26,000 is returned, plus $4,000 in jewelry. Plus documentation of efforts to repair credit damages." "And what if we refuse?" "Then we proceed with formal charges," Monica said calmly. "Elder financial abuse, fraud, possibly theft." My father looked like he wanted to protest. My mother's face crumpled. "What happened to our family?" she whispered. "You happened," Ruth said suddenly, voice soft but cutting. "You let your son spiral while robbing your daughter to buy wine and massages. You left me with moldy walls and no heat while you posted pictures of champagne brunches." You didn't ask for help, my mother said defensively. I shouldn't have had to. Liam's voice came through the speaker next. You always said you believed in me. But the moment things got hard, you threw money at me instead of helping me fix myself. That's not belief. That's avoidance. You were out of control, my father barked. We did what we could. No, Liam said. Kelsey did what you should have done. She told me the truth. She helped me change. Jordan spoke again. We can sit here all day and blame, or we can agree to terms. My parents finally nodded. Hesitantly. But they nodded. They signed the restitution agreement that day. The first payment hit my account 2 weeks later. Small, but real. Legal. Documented. The next month passed like the slow lifting of fog. Liam found a sober living home near my apartment. He got a part-time job at a pet supply store. He made his bed, cooked his own meals, attended meetings, slipped, once, called me crying, and instead of hiding it, told his sponsor. I finally stopped lying to myself, he said one night as we walked through the park. And it's the weirdest kind of peace. Ruth adjusted to apartment life better than anyone expected. She took up watercolors, bought a potted lemon tree for her balcony. You can grow anything in the right light, she told me. As for me, I returned to work, still tired, still healing, but with a new posture, a new sense of weight distribution. My savings were gone. My plans delayed, but something better had taken root. I wasn't the anchor anymore, holding everyone still. I was the tide, moving forward, pulling others with me when they were ready. One evening I received a text from Liam. Dinner at my place, I'll cook. I arrived to find the table set, the pasta only slightly overcooked, and a small bouquet of flowers in a jelly jar vase. He poured sparkling water into chipped glasses and raised his in a toast. To being a work in progress, he said. To getting better, I added, and to sisters who don't give up. We clinked glasses. Outside, the city lights shimmered. Inside, we ate, laughed, and listened to music that didn't try to drown anything out. Later, he handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it. A letter. His handwriting. Kels. I thought recovery would be a light switch, on or off. Turns out, it's more like walking with a limp after healing from a broken leg. You move forward, but it still aches. Thank you for not abandoning me, for showing me how to walk again. I used to think you were perfect. Now I know you're human. And that makes you even stronger. I love you. Liam, I hugged him tight. We didn't say much more. We didn't need to, because sometimes healing isn't a grand revelation or a dramatic breakthrough. Sometimes it's quiet, uneventful, a meal shared, a promise kept, a morning where the sun feels warmer than it did before. So that's the story, the one I didn't plan to tell, the one about family, betrayal, and all the things we survive to build something better. If you're reading this because you've been used, lied to, or made to feel like your worth is tied to how much you can hold together, let me say this. You are allowed to step away. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to break the pattern. And sometimes the hardest thing you can do is stop carrying the weight someone else refuses to acknowledge. But I promise, it's worth it. If this story moved you or reminded you of something in your own life, please take a moment to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me share more stories that matter, about healing, boundaries, and what it really means to protect the people you love. Let's keep the conversation going.